alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today, inshallah, we're going to go through some basic ways in which you guys can hopefully be able to justify, rationalize Islam, to introduce Islam rationally to non-Muslim friends, Muslim friends that require it, and then we're going to quickly move on to questions and answers. And what we want you to do in that section of the program is really to engage with us, inshallah. And when we're engaging, I want you to ask all the questions that you find difficult that you find quite difficult, especially in California. It's a liberal, very liberal state. You know, you can ask any question you want, and we'll give you the answers which we have found have the most battleground success, like the ones that we've tried in different contexts, and which we have found have worked the best. Because Dawah is an important obligation for everyone. You know, everyone needs to make sure, especially in a country like this, that they are engaging with Muslims and non-Muslims, because frankly, we're at the mercy of a lot of forces that are not in our control. So everyone needs to be proactive in the community. Everyone needs to be doing dawah to their close friends and their families and their neighbors and their, you know, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, "Ballighu anni walau ayah." He says that, tell the people about me, and even if it's one ayah. So, "Ballighu anni walau ayah," bifahmiha as well, which means you have to have the understanding of that ayah. So today is, inshallah, we're giving you some battle-grounded, field-tested arguments which have had considerable success in different contexts. And we're going to go through a method called the go-rap method. Now, it's a very straightforward method. You might have heard it before. Put your hands up if you've heard it before. If you've heard it, you've heard it. So the go-rap method is an acronym. Yeah? Each letter, G-O-R-A-P, it stands for a word. And the idea is when you're approaching someone as a non-Muslim, or sometimes, unfortunately, even now, you know, if you're approaching Muslims, it's just a way in which you can sequence your thoughts. What you start off by saying, you know, then what, then what, then what, then what. So Ali's going to start off with the G and the O, and then I'm going to do the R, and then he's going to come back to the A and P. And we're basically going to go through each of those things. If you need to take notes, please do so. You can use your phones, we won't take it as an offense. If you want to write on a piece of paper, but do expect to be interrogated, okay? Because passive learning is always it's not a good way to retain information. So Ali, inshallah, is going to start with the first part.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Can you guys hear me? Hello? Now, you can hear me, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to go through go-rap. G stands for God, proving God's existence. The O stands for His oneness. The R stands for revelation. A stands for and, what's coming after. And P stands for prophet. Good. So we're going to be, inshallah, going through it, but we're going to test you guys. So we will pick two people from the brother's side who we will bring up here and you'll be tested. Yeah? Okay, Allah says in the Quran, don't think that you just don't say I believe and not be tested. You're going to be tested today, and always you get tested in different ways in our life. Okay, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Quran chapter 52 verse 35, is it that they are created by none, or are they themselves the creators? Or have they created the heavens and the earth? No, but they are sure of nothing. This statement here, no, but they are sure of nothing, is something that you will hear when you're talking to atheists. So the first premise, how do we prove that God exists? Yeah. So our premise is that everything that begins to exist has a cause. Yeah. Does that make sense? Everything that begins to exist has a cause. So we live in a realm where there's cause and effect. Yeah. This bottle of water would not drop unless I do this. Yeah. That's cause and effect. Yeah. I had to do this. Yeah. Shall I do it again? the universe began to exist. Yeah? So when I'm speaking to my atheist friend, I'll say David or Amy. What's a popular female name here?
Susie.
Susie, yeah? Okay, I assume the best that your teacher's name is Susie. I'm joking. It's one of my day jokes. By the way, I try to make these jokes to make people laugh, but it doesn't work. But I do try. I'm improving on it. But some people do laugh. Yes, so basically, if we're speaking to Susie, we're speaking to, in Britain, Amy, Jonathan, David, whoever it may be, we'll say, look, my friend, yeah? My premise is that everything that begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist. You tell me if this is right or wrong, or you want to add more into it, yeah? Either it came from nothing, or it was created. Yeah? Is there anything else? Yeah. Is there anything else we can add into this? Any other possibility? Yeah? Anything else, sisters? Not from nothing.
No.
Okay? Okay, I want you guys to put yourself in an atheist mind, yeah, and try to challenge it, yeah? Can something come from nothing? I'm telling you, can something come from nothing? It can't, yeah? Why? Because from nothing, nothing comes. What is nothing? What is the definition of nothing? Nothing is the absence of something. There is nothing there. Zero. Zilch. Yeah? So, in mathematics even, you never get 0 plus 0 equaling 1, yeah? So it's some impossibility. Yeah, so you need to say to Susie will say bye-bye to nothing, yes? Nothing, goodbye, no more nothing is good, yeah? Now, the second option is, okay, Susie or Donald, you might be giving Dawah to Donald Trump, you never know, yeah? Yeah, you never know, this it can happen, yeah? Yeah, anyways. Can it create itself? Can the universe create itself? Why not?
Can it exist and not exist?
Sorry? I heard something.
Has to have a
Can
spark.
it exist and not exist?
Put your hands up, guys. No. It's gonna be like, you know.
Yeah, put your hands up.
Then you choose.
Okay. Yeah.
Can it exist and not exist at the same time?
Yes. So, for example, the example you can give is that can my mother give birth to herself? She has to exist and not exist at the same time. It's an impossibility. It's a paradox. Yeah. So we say, okay, that's not possible. Yeah. So I'm sure if they're logical, they'll say, okay, that makes sense. It has to exist and not exist at the same time. Not possible. Okay, bye bye. It cannot create itself. Okay. The atheist might say, okay, hold on a second, sir. Yeah. It's always been there. It's infinite. The universe has always been there. What would you say then?
Has to
You
have
can put your hands up. Yes.
has to have like a start point.
Right. He's saying it's always been there. Infinite. It's always been there.
Well, I mean, it can't just come from nothing. I mean, it has to have a start point, like a beginning.
How do you know? They don't know actually. That's why Allah says in the Quran that when you ask them, they say no, but we are not sure of nothing, which I'm going to come to. They would jump around and say, it's always been there. So how we make them understand is that we say, look, imagine if I had infinite amount of biryanis, yeah? Okay, biryanis, you like biryani, yeah? Okay, now. Yeah, we didn't have biryani today, we had some. What did we have today? We had lamb chops. Anyways, imagine you have infinite amounts of biryanis, yeah? If I eat 2 biryanis, how many biryanis do we have left?
Infinite.
Sorry?
Infinite.
No, I just ate 2.
Infinity minus 2.
It's a contradiction. So for example, what we're trying to say, imagine I added 2 more biryanis. Yeah? So infinite doesn't have a beginning and end, yeah? So to take away from it and add to it is a contradiction. Infinite doesn't have no beginning and end. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So infinite does not exist in the real world. So we'll say to Susie, and we'll say to David and Donald, yeah, that infinite doesn't exist in the real world. Show me an example of infinite. I'll say to him, show me an example of infinite. Yeah? He can't. It doesn't exist in the real world. So we say, look, infinite does not exist in the real world. Because if you take away 2, you can't say infinite minus 2. It does not. It's a contradiction. Do you get it? Or infinite plus 2. It doesn't exist in the real world. Yeah? So we'll say bye-bye to infinite. Yeah? So there's not infinite. The argument was finite. Exactly. Yeah? Now they would come and say, okay, no problem. Chance. Yeah? They'll say, there's a chance. We'll say, can it come from nothing? Yeah, there's a chance. There's a chance with this. There's a chance with everything. Yeah? So when they come with this argument, personally, these people are the hardest to talk to, yeah? Because to them everything is a chance. Yeah? I mean, I was speaking to one guy in the speaker's corner and I said to him, is there a chance I'm a lamppost? He said yes. Yeah? He said, yeah, there's a chance that you might be a lamppost. So I don't know what else to say to him. Yeah? But then I go, sometimes you have to drop to their level in a way and say to them, okay, is there a chance that my mum is a blue rhino and met my dad who's a red giraffe in Mars? Yeah, say the most crazy stuff you can, the most craziest, absurd stuff you can, and say, is there a chance? Yeah, most likely they're going to say no. If they say yes, then just leave them. I'll be honest, just seriously, just say, look, I think it's, we go our separate ways. Because you can't win, because to them everything's a chance. You know? He thinks everything's possible. You know, I would say don't waste your time. But if you can give some crazy examples, which they themselves will think, okay, it's not possible. Say, there you go. So what's the only option left? It's created. Yeah, simple as that. No one can deny this. Yeah. So they have now accepted that a designer exists. Yeah, they accepted a creator exists. Now here, they would come and say, oh, okay, they'll say to you, argument's sake, I accept. Okay, no. If they say to you, argument's sake, no, don't let them just go, yeah? Because now, because they know it makes sense, and they have to accept the creator exists, and they don't want to, they would come and say, oh, argument's sake. No, don't say, no. Say, if you're saying argument's sake, it shows that you're not certain. Let's go back to it. And you'll say, oh, no, I don't want to go back to it, yeah? Then say, okay, you've accepted now the creator exists, yeah? So when they ask you the question, who created the creator? You need to make sure that they are certain, yeah, that a creator exists. Yeah, don't move on from this point. Otherwise, they're going to say, okay, all right, because he's going to feel like you've got one over him. And he's going to say, okay, but who created your creator? Yeah? Say, look, I'm not here to win an argument. I'm not here to say, okay, 1 point to me, 0 point to you. I'm here to make you think. So now, when it comes to the question, if they say, okay, look, I genuinely accept, yeah, there's a creator, but I want to know who created the creator. How would you answer that? You put your hands up.
I want to hear his answer.
Yeah, I can't hear it. Yes.
Yeah.
Just tell them what they told you.
What did they tell me?
It's infinite.
Okay, you can say that, but how? He's going to say, you said, you can use that, but how are you going to break it down? Because he's going to say, who created your creator? You can use the argument we said, everything that begins to exist. So our premise was everything that begins to exist, but we don't believe Allah began to exist, yeah? You can use that, it's a good point, but we would say, for example, we call it infinite regress, yeah? So, if there is more than one God, then we, like Allah says in the Quran, that if there is more than one creator, there would have been conflict, they would have fought each other for power, yeah? And if there is more than one God, then we have to ask the question, which one is more powerful than the other? Because if there's more than two, then which one created the other? How can they both just exist simultaneously? Do you get what I'm trying to say? So, another example we can give is, to this, that it doesn't work, is if I said I need permission to tip this water bottle over, but I need to ask Mohammed Hijab. Yeah, so I've got Mohammed Hijab, do you give me permission to tip this bottle over? And he says, 1 second Ali, I'm going to ask, what's your name?
Mohammed.
I'm going to ask Mohammed, number 2, yeah? And Mohammed number 2 is going to ask somebody else. And if this goes on forever, would I ever get to tip the bottle?
No.
Never, because it's infinite regress. He's asking him, do you get it? So if there was more than one creator, the universe would have not begun. Nothing would have happened. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So you can use that verse in the Quran as well. This is the way we prove God exists and why God is one and there is not more than one. In a simple, and you can shape this up yourself as well, yeah? So look into different arguments, you can shape it up yourself. It's just the basic of the basics. And then we'll go to Revelation.
Okay, so at this point, hopefully, the person you're speaking to is at a stage where they accept the existence of one God. And this is a good argument. The cosmological argument has been used in many contexts and it has few limitations. So it's a very strong argument. In terms of the oneness argument, as Ali said, you know, the verses in the Quran, for example, and wallahi, the more I research, the more I realize the Quran has all the answers. I know it's a very cliche thing to say, but it really does. The best arguments are the Quranic arguments. So for example, on oneness, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Anbiya, He says, لو كان فيهما آلهة إلا الله لفسدتا. If there were in them, or if there were more than one God, then the heavens and the earth would have been destroyed. فَسُبْحَانَ اللَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَرْشِ عَمَّا يَصِفُونَ. So what is this? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that if there was more than one ultimate authority, more than one will, then the heavens and the earth would have been destroyed. The reason for that is because if the commanding and guiding authority was more than one ultimate commanding and guiding authority, then which one would the rules of nature follow? For example, to put this in simple terms, if you have two drivers of a vehicle, someone's driving a car, but you have two drivers, where's the car going to go? You know, if you have two independent, autonomous drivers, both of them having the option to drive wherever they want to drive, which one is going to determine where the car goes? So the car will misnavigate, and in the same way, the cosmic reality, or the heavens and the earth, would be destroyed because it requires one ultimate guiding authority. The other verse in Surah Al-Mu'minun, which Brother Ali mentioned, I think is verse number 91, is chapter number 23. لَعَلَى بَعْضُهُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ, that they would have competed with one another in terms of power. They would have competed with one another in terms of power. So once again, it's impossible to have two almighty gods. That's impossible. You know why? Because if the definition of all-powerful is that you're more powerful than everything else, then how can you have two of those things? You understand? If the definition is that you have ultimate will and command and power over everything else, then having more than one of those entities is an impossibility. Should we do a little test before we continue?
No, we have to.
We have to, yes.
This is a must.
Yeah. Alright, so...
Let's pick some people. Now this is where everybody looks away, yeah, hence we're not going to pick them. But actually we're going to pick the ones that look away. So let's pick this brother. Yeah, you.
Mohammed.
We need two people.
Yeah, you and that brother. Yes.
Yeah, just in front of us here, it's fine, huh? Or, yeah, just come here so the sisters can see you as well.
Come here, there.
Don't worry, you know. There's no one, here or there. Front there.
So everyone can see them. Here, come here.
Oh, okay, fine. Yeah. You want to sit down? Can you sit on the seat? Excellent. Oh. Okay, there we go.
Okay, so basically, you be a Muslim, yeah? Okay, Alhamdulillah, you're going to pretend to be an atheist, yeah?
So you're giving him the hard challenge already?
Yeah, I know you can do this, okay? So basically, you need to prove to him that God exists, okay? So he's an atheist, you're going to say to him, look, hi, Mr. Muslim.
Hello, no. Okay, I want to know.
Do you want a mic? Let's do this. I'm going to hold it.
Should we give him my mic?
No, who's spoken?
Okay.
Close to
Yeah, how do you prove that God exists?
How do you prove God exists?
Everything that begins to exist has a cause.
Universe.
The universe is meant to exist.
I wonder what caused that.
Good. This is good. You can use this, yeah? You should say, look. Say the mic dropped, there's a cause.
The mic dropped it's because the cord unplugged.
I think you're just parroting here. No. You might as well just do it for him.
Okay.
Alright, come on.
Give him the option. This is good. Now it's good, yeah? So you give him the options. What's the options? The universe began to exist. Either it came from
Nothing.
it created itself.
It created itself.
It was created.
It was created.
Or it's infinite.
Or it's infinite. Or there's a chance.
Yeah, it's good as well. Yeah.
I see it's
You-
correct.
Can it come from nothing?
No. The universe can't come from nothing.
Okay,
You
say,
say nice and
no, you
gentle.
say, yes, it can come from nothing.
Okay, yes, it can't come from nothing.
So you're spoon feeding them too much, man. This is what.
Okay, so,
Come on.
okay, prove to him it can't come from nothing.
So basically, it's like if Ali here, he asks Muhammad if I can hold this microphone, and then Muhammad asks another brother in there, and then he asks another brother, and then another brother, and another brother. It's just gonna go on forever.
Yeah, that's good. It's good. You're at the right stage. That's the second argument. Don't forget that. That was very good. Yeah, that's the second stage. The first one is, can something come from nothing? And he said yes. Yeah. Say to him, 0 plus 0 can it equal 1?
0 plus 0 can it equal 1?
No.
So you got him now. Yeah. So you're gonna say, so therefore it cannot come from nothing.
So therefore, it cannot come from nothing.
Yeah. Okay. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pick another person, inshallah, another person to carry this argument on.
Maybe someone of a different age group now.
How old are you talking?
Yeah, who's saying me? Yeah, come.
No, not the young one. I mean, now you're.
Okay. Come, actually, one of you guys come. We're gonna come to you. Right? Come on, brother.
Pick someone. This brother here. Look. Yes, the one with the curly hair. No. Yes, mashallah.
Okay, so we stop that nothing. Yeah. So he's proven that it cannot come from nothing. The next argument is, you know, can
it create itself? Alright. So can the universe create itself?
Yes.
Alright, how can the universe create itself?
If you could leave it. Yeah, I know you're going.
So,
Yeah.
if the, if okay, let's use an example, right? If the universe could create itself, let's look at our world, right? Can your mother give birth to herself, right? Can she both exist to give birth to herself and then not exist so she could be birthed by herself?
No, that's not gonna work.
good. Very good. Yeah. So yes, I'm not. Make
Maybe one more. Yeah, one more.
one more. So yes, good. That's good.
That was good.
So good. It cannot come from
Yeah,
nothing.
bring it close to the sisters can hear,
So
please.
it cannot create itself because the mother can't give birth to herself.
Yeah, it's a creation paradox, right? Something can't exist and not exist at the same time.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It's infinite.
Well, ask him. You say. Maybe it can be infinite.
Yeah, maybe the universe always existed and it's infinite.
Okay, so if it again, right? Like if I were to drop this mic right now, that wouldn't have just accidentally happened, or you being here wasn't always here.
Infinite doesn't exist in the real world. So
Infinite doesn't exist in the real world. So, if I had, if I asked you to take a seat and I had infinite chairs for you to pick one and you sat in one, would I still have infinite chairs, or would I have one chair? But that's fine.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Very good. Very good.
Okay, good. That's my friend for playing doing that. It's good.
That's good. It's good. When you're on the spot like that.
Well,
Very
now
good.
let's get sisters involved as well, because
Yeah.
we're gonna give you the, you can stay in your seats, inshallah, no problem. Now let's go for the second part, the part of oneness. So I'm gonna pretend to be someone who's agreed with your first premise that there could be a God, and now we're gonna tease the question: why cannot be? Just why does it have to be one God?
Who created God?
No, we don't know already.
No.
Infinite regress. We're doing oneness now. No, more than one God now, we're a different question. So now, let's see, if I'm someone who's saying, why does there have to be one God? Yeah? Who wants to, I'm going to give you the option before I pick anyone out. Who wants to,
He's the one,
no, this,
he's the one who can control everything. But he's the only one. If there's two, they can't control.
okay, why? You're right, okay, pretend I'm an atheist now, I'm going to be a bit more, a bit more antagonistic. Why?
Because he's the power.
Okay, why does it have to be just one? Why not two or three?
Okay. It's like we have the husband and the wife in the house.
MashaAllah, you've got good examples.
So if the man is gonna, he has to control the house. If they both of them go the same,
Are you going to bring that to the feminist talk?
yeah, then a part is not gonna work. You know, then so it's only one can do that.
Well, okay, yeah, right. So, what was the example that? Another example that maybe is a bit more. طيب تفضلي tell us. So let me be the atheist now, the polytheist now, yeah.
So if there are more than one God,
Yes.
the heavens will be corrupted because who's going to be the boss now? They'll
Okay.
be corrupted.
Right, I see what you mean. But why can't there be two all-powerful agents?
So who is in charge? If they have different opinions, who's going to be in charge?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, this is the argument. Well done, mashallah. Jazakumullah khairan. Jazakumullah khairan. Fine. We're going to move on to the next part of the discussion, which is about revelation. So the question now is, okay, say they believe in God, because a lot of people in America, in England, we have a lot of atheists. I'm not sure how it is in California, but in America generally, I think there's a higher proportion of people that believe in God than there is in England. So you get them to the point where they believe in God. The secondary question now is, what about Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? What makes your prophet true and so on? So we start with the Quran. I'm just going to give you 3 or 4 arguments which I think have been very effective and will act as a way in which you can convince someone that he was a true prophet. And then Ali will give us some more information about his life and about his character, okay? But I'm going to start with the Quran itself, right? So, there are certain things we would argue about the Quran which doesn't exist in other scriptures. So for example, the fact, obviously, that it's unimitable, that you can't copy it. It's something which there's a challenge. You know, bring your witnesses from other than God, make one chapter like it and bring your witnesses from other than God if you're truthful. But also the fact that it was preserved, yes? We have certainly sent down the dhikr, the remembrance of the Quran, and we will certainly preserve it. You know, that also is, there's no contradictions in the Quran. You know, and if it was from other than God, they would have seen in it many contradictions. So these are prerequisite things that you expect from Revelation. The second thing is, now the arguments I put forward are as follows. Number one, and I'm going to test you on this, so inshallah try and be as active in learning as possible, is the linguistic miracle of the Quran. Yes? The language of the Quran, by the testimonial of those individuals that lived with the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, even the detractors, even the ones who did not accept his message, they realized that it was completely irregular in terms of its de-scoping of all of that which came before it in terms of the Arabic language. So it's something in terms of text which is unmatched by the admission of the early Arabs. And what's the evidence of that on a demographic or sociological level? The evidence of that is its effect on Arab society and on the world. How individuals received this book. And by the way, it's not the only claim at that particular time to prophethood and to revelation. There were other claims like Musaylim al-Kadhab and other people who pretended to be prophets, and they had so-called revelations, but it never resonated with people as a result of its lack of eloquence. The Arabs, they saw through it. The specialists knew that this was something which was not actually anything amazing in that way. So that's the first thing, the linguistic thing. The second thing is the structural coherence of the Quran. So the Quran, as you guys know, was revealed over 23 years. And in those 23 years, the Quran came down piecemeal, meaning bit by bit. It didn't come down all in one go. But despite the fact that it came down piecemeal, and it was a circumstantial revelation, so someone would come and ask the Prophet a question, and he would sometimes answer in the form of revelation in the Quran. So he had he was going to respond. Yet, when it comes together in chronological format, there's an incredible knitted togetherness of the Quranic discourse. Let me give you some live examples. There's 114 surahs of the Quran. Intricately linked in terms of themes and the actual words that are used, the lexis. So in other words, and this is something you can count and quantify. It's not something we're just saying is, something which is a haphazard experiment. And by the way, this has been quantified and it has been studied on a scholarly level. Even in English, like Raymond Farron and Neil Robinson and Kuipers, many people have read about this. It's something which is academically now studied, yeah? In the English-speaking world, let alone the Arabic-speaking world, which there's lots of things on that as well if you want. I can give you references. But let me give you a live example. So there's 114 chapters of the Quran. So the bottom and the front, see, give me two numbers that are from 1 to 114 that are next to each other.
1, 1, 1.
No, like 1 and 2, 2, 3, like this.
Oh, 4, 4 and 7. Sorry, 4 and 5, 4 and 5.
4 and 5, okay? So Surah An-Nisa is chapter 4 and 5 is Surah Al-Ma'idah, yeah? If you look at how Surah An-Nisa began, and first of all how Surah Al-Imran, it ended. Let's look at that. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ends Surah Al-Imran with a discussion, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُضِيعَ عَمَلَ عَامِلٍ مِنْكُم مِّن ذَكَرٍ أَوْ أُنْثَى بَعْضُكُم مِّن بَعْضٍ. That Allah does not let to waste any good deed of any of you, man or woman, and both of you are from each other, yeah? بَعْضُكُم مِّن بَعْضٍ. ذَكَرْ أُنْثَى. Remember these words, yeah? Surah An-Nisa, اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة. Then what? وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء. Is there a connection between Nisa and Unsa? Yes. Is there a connection between بعضكم من بعض in the end and وخلق منها زوجها? Yes. It's the same language being used at the beginning of Surah Nisa and the end of Surah Al-Imran. But they're different revelations, different times. You'll even find, just what I find really interesting about Surah Al-Imran, it ends with dua. And it begins with dua. Surah Al-Imran, I'm going back now a little bit, but I'll come forward to Surah Al-Ma'idah because you asked about it. It starts with, ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. And then it ends, so that's dua. And it starts with dua, the first page of Surah Al-Imran, and the last couple of pages of Surah Al-Imran, إِنَّا سَمَعْنَا مُنَادِي يُنَادِي لِلْإِيمَانِ. And then all of the after ayahs are all dua. So mentioning what? Women and men, just like Al-Imran. How does Surah An-Nisa end? It talks about how this is the very last ayah of Surah An-Nisa, after talking about Jesus and all of those things. It talks about one mas'ala in mirath. And the mas'ala involves men and women. So it ends the way it began. And mirath is a kind of contract. It's a kind of contract. It's part of transactions. How does Surah Al-Ma'idah begin? Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu awfu bil-uqud. Fulfill your contracts. So it's too intricately connected. The beginnings of the surahs, the ends of the surahs, all of them are connected, but they're not revealed at the same time. So how could it be that this man who was being asked questions randomly, now he's been able to answer them haphazardly, but at the same time, he's allowed the Quran to have this incredibly tight knitted togetherness, lexical knitted togetherness. It's something which, frankly, boggles the mind. And so much so that they have started researching into it. Some non-Muslims have researched it. Like, you know, how did they, you know, they're confused about it. Because it's a strong argument for the coherence of the Quran and the legitimacy of the Quran as a text from Allah. And you know this argument, by the way, there's some mathematical things. I'm not really a big fan of the so-called mathematical miracles, like number 19 and those things. I keep away from that because it's been refuted. Yeah? And there's lots of it which has muddied the waters, and I don't like it, to be honest with you. Because I've checked some of them, and a lot of them are fake, you know, to be honest with you. I have to be honest with you, right? But some of them are not fake, and I've checked some of them, right? I'll give you an example of this. And this links to structure as well. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, Inna mathala Isa عند الله كمثل آدم خلقه من تراب ثم قال له كن فيكون. That Jesus is like the word Adam is mentioned 7 times up until this surah and ayah. And the word Isa is mentioned also 7 times. Because both of them, Allah is saying they're like each other, isn't it? But then if you read the whole Quran, both of them are mentioned 25 times. Adam is mentioned 25 times, and Isa is mentioned 25 times. So even in terms of wording, it's very delicate. The Quran, it's not like something which is haphazard or something like that. No, this is delicate. Everything is delicate. The wording, everything. It's like it had to be crafted by someone. It could not have been done something like haphazard. How could someone know the future in that way? And linking on to how could someone know the future of that way? So we talked about the linguistic and the structural coherence of the Quran, and with that we talked a little bit about the mathematical stuff. Number 3, we can talk about the predictions, and this is a very powerful, one of the most successful things I've used. And because it's a straightforward argument, Allah, He makes predictions about the future. غُلِبَتِ الرُّومُ فِي أَدْنَى الْأَرْضِ وَهُمْ مِنْ بَعْدِ غَلَبِهِمْ سَيَغْلِبُونَ فِي بِضْعِ سِنِينَ لِلَّهِ الْأَمْرُ مِنْ قَبْلُ وَمِنْ بَعْدِ يَوْمَئِذٍ يَفْرَحُ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. That the Romans have been defeated in a nearby low land, you know, and after they lost, they will come to return the victory in a nearby low land. Then that day the Muslims will rejoice, and it will happen in 3 to 9 years. And so many variables, very delicate, very, you know. And so the question is, how can and this materialized, by the way, this actually happened the way it did. If someone says something's going to happen in the future, and it doesn't happen, this is an indication that they're a liar. If I say, oh, they don't know, either lack of knowledge, or it can falsify something. If I say this is going to happen, you know, I'm receiving information from the all-knowing, and 7 days from now, X is going to happen. It will destroy my reputation. The Jehovah's Witnesses, they had something, they said in 1977, yeah, they said it's going to be the end of the world. You know, so when this 1977 came, and you know, it's obviously, there was 1978 and 1979, and it wasn't the end of the world. They call it the Great Depression, because it didn't materialize, it didn't happen, and it shook their faith. It made them feel like this is not true religion or something. They believe in continual revelation. The point is, this is one of many prophecies in Islam. So many prophecies in Islam. Like, for example, one of the interesting ones is the Prophet's hadith, where it says, زُوِيَ لِيَ الْأَرْضِ فَرَأَيْتُ مَشَارِقَهَا وَمَغَارِبَهَا وَإِنَّ أُمَّتِي سَتَبْلُغُ مُلْكُهَا مَا زُوِيَ لِي مِنْهَا. That I have seen the earth in front of me, and I saw this eastern parts and western parts, and my nation, it will possess those areas of the The Islamic expansion was eastward and westward. It wasn't north and south. مَشَارِقَهَا وَمَغَارِبَهَا, east and west. And not only was it east and west, but the Prophet specified which countries are going to be overtaken. He talked about Yemen in the hadith. He talked about Syria in the hadith. He talked about Egypt in a hadith. He talked about even Sindh wal Hind, by the way, which is Pakistan. He says Muslims will fight the Turks. And we know that happened, and Turks became Muslim. They converted to Islam, as we know. He says that the Muslims will enter Constantinople, Constantinople, which is Istanbul now. Yeah, there's so many things that how could he predict all of that? You know, the bracelets of Qisr. He said that you know, the Roman Empire will expire. The Muslims will go into the Roman Empire, the Persian Empire, and so on. So these are like quick things you can just narrate to people. I made a video about this called The Prophecies in Islam. You can check it, inshallah. This is just a shorthand, yani, of the of some of the things, but you can mention so many things about this, inshallah. So, just to keep it very simple, the language, the structure, and the prophecies. And in that prophecy section, you can talk about some other interesting historical nuances. The fact that, for example, the Quran calls Joseph's master in Egypt, or the monarch at that time, it calls him king. The king. And the Bible calls him Pharaoh. And we know at that time, the word Pharaoh wasn't used. And how do we know that? Through the Rosetta Stone. That was discovered with the Rosetta Stone, and that happened in what, the 16th or 17th century or something like that. The hieroglyphic language was the encoded language. No one could have known that information at the time. And there's lots of information and lots of things that are additional to that. Things that the Prophet knew about ancient Egypt, which could not have been unearthed except through the Rosetta Stone, because it was a dead language. And so that's one of the examples, but there are so many other examples. And so those three things, you can propagate them, you can use them if you're just speaking to people. Obviously, if you have more time with them, you can give them better examples. And give them, the more they reject, the more you can give them examples. And then at some points, they may feel like, you know, this is too much information, or these are too many evidences. Because at the end of the day, you've got to think of it from a probabilistic perspective. All of these things, what are the chances that all of this could have happened? You know, and it's a very slim chance, and they recognize that. Deep in their fitrah, in their nature, they realize that, frankly, this is a strong epistemic case. So with that, I'll leave you to the last bit. Inshallah, we'll open it for questions, inshallah.
This is very short. So can you hear me? Hello? Hello? Can you hear me?
You might have turned up.
So basically, this is going to be very short, so pay questions, inshallah. So basically, this is where we prove the Prophet ﷺ why he is a true prophet. Yeah. So basically, we have three questions that we ask, or three options that we give to our friends. So basically, what we say is either the Prophet ﷺ was truthful, he was a liar, or he was deluded. There's no other option. Yeah. Just like we gave the options by proving God's existence. It came from nothing, infinite, created itself, was created. So let's start with lie. So we ask our friend, why does somebody lie? Why does somebody lie? Let me ask you guys. Why does somebody lie for?
To defend themselves.
To defend themselves.
To escape from any threat or something.
Yeah, escape from threat. But mainly the main options is that for to gain something. Yeah, they would lie to gain something, be it popularity, be it money, whatever it may be. Yeah, that's why somebody would lie. Yeah. And if somebody is given those possessions, they will stop lying. Yeah. Okay. So if somebody is lying to have a high status, to have money, wealth, etc., whatever it may be, once they have got that, they will stop lying. Yeah. Hopefully, if they're greedy, they will carry on lying. So the Prophet ﷺ, the Quraysh came to him and said, "Look, stop preaching what you're preaching. Yeah. Stop preaching Tawheed. Stop calling to this one God that you keep talking about, yeah? We will give you a woman, woman will give you red camels. Red camels were like Ferraris back in the days, yeah? So don't belittle them. They were like Ferraris, yeah? You know, people like red camels. And they said, we'll give you status, we'll give you whatever you like, yeah? If somebody is lying, what would they say? Yes, thank you. That's all I need. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm stopping now. You do what you like. Bye-bye, yeah? The Prophet ﷺ said, it might be vice versa. Give me the moon on my left or the sun on my right, or vice versa. I'm not going to stop preaching while I'm preaching. Yeah? Does that sound like a liar to you? No, because he was persecuted. Not only that, they didn't just say, okay, take this. No, they persecuted him. Yeah, they killed his companions, and he went through a lot. And I think in Surah Ahzab, what's for Tawbah? Al-Anfal, verse 30, even if I'm not mistaken, talks about this, that, you know, they conspired to kill the Prophet ﷺ, and he, with Allah's permission, he escaped. You know, and we know from many verses how they were persecuting the Muslims. So you can see that if he was a liar, he would have accepted and say, bye-bye, yeah? So, is he a liar? No. Okay, then they will say, oh, maybe he was deluded. Maybe he was crazy, yeah? So we say, okay, when his son died, what happened? What happened? Sorry? The moon eclipsed, yeah? So the companions ran to him and said, look, your son died, the moon eclipsed, yeah? If somebody is deluded, if somebody is crazy, they'll think, yeah, okay, this is great. Yes, see, I'm a prophet, I told you, yeah? What did the Prophet ﷺ say? He said, no, the moon doesn't eclipse for nobody's death. Does that sound like a deluded man? No, yeah? So he cannot be deluded, he's not a liar, he has to be truthful. No other option, yeah? And how is he truthful? Because he said to the Quraysh, and this is where, the pinnacle of kufr, disbelief. He said, if I said to you, behind this mountain there is an army coming to kill us, would you believe me? They said, we know you to be the truthful. How could we deny you? He's saying, I'm telling you I'm the messenger of Allah, but you deny me. Look at the level of disbelief. We accept it if I said there's an army coming behind this building, would you accept, behind this mountain? Would you accept it? Yes. Can you imagine? Look, they're accepting it. Yes, we know you to be the truthful. They're saying it with their own mouth. And then he goes, I'm telling you I'm the messenger of Allah. They go, no, we deny it from you. It's mad, it's crazy. You know? Sometimes it makes you understand why some people deserve hellfire. It's absolutely crazy. You're with your own mouth. Your tongue is testifying, yes, you are truthful, but no, we reject you. So, this is how we prove that the Prophet ﷺ is truthful. Simple. Yeah? You can use this and shape up however you like. Let's open to Q&A, inshallah. Whatever questions you have, you want to ask, anything, yeah? Okay. So brothers, you might be like, you want to get married to a sister and they're not letting you, the family, and you're crying, you're upset, It might be the other way around, whatever it may be. It might be something that's going personal in your life. You might have doubts. Please feel free. We're here to help you, inshallah, yeah? Whatever it may be, ask us, inshallah. So we'll open to questions.
So I have like a few questions.
Sure.
Can I just ask them all? Or?
No, just one at a time because we're trying to get everyone. We'll try and come back to you though, inshallah.
Yeah.
Let me see which ones. Okay, I'll start with the Big Bang Theory.
Yes.
Right? So the theory is that the universe, spontaneously, time started at a certain point. Before that, you don't know what was there or whatever. Time started at a point in time, and that's how the universe started. It just started,
yeah.
Right? So that's like the scientific argument that they make, right? So
yeah.
Why do you have to prove that there was something before or not? This is the theory. So what do you say?
That I would say personally, how we covered it from cause and effect. Our premise is this: the way you dismantle that is you make them accept this premise. Everything that begins to exist requires a cause. If they say no, you have to say to them, okay, you need to prove to me how not. Yeah? Because we're saying everything that comes into existence requires a cause. If you're denying that, tell me how. What is your evidence? You're not here saying what? And the argument we use is, can something come from nothing? Before time started, there was nothing. So can nothing make something? Can it?
No.
Finished. As simple as that. You can't use that argument. It's finished because you're just saying it just happened. What do you mean it just happened? Is that it? Okay, it just happened. It doesn't make sense. If I don't know, if you went to this guy's car and it's broken, and he said to you, what happened? Say, it just happened. He'll get angry with you. You say, what do you mean? Say, it just happened. Did somebody hit my car? No, nobody hit your car, nobody touched it, it just happened. He's going to get angry. You say, how do you understand? We're not getting angry, but we yourself in our shoes. We're not even talking about a car here. Yeah? So that's how I would personally answer it. Yeah?
Yeah.
As Muslims, how much of our beliefs and such have to be proved or backed by evidence and logic, and how much do we have to leave up to faith? For instance, there's words like destiny, predestiny, you have to leave up to faith.
Yes.
And etc. So how much can be proved by human intelligence and how much you have to leave up for faith?
I will just touch upon it, Mohammed Hijab elaborate on it as well, is that Allah SWT tells us to use our aql. So, when we're pondering upon Allah SW's ayah, yeah? Revelations, be it revelation, be it physical things that you see around you, you know, and there's a verse, which was the verse you were saying yesterday about the constellation of the night and day. You know, there's powerful verses from the Quran that tell you to do this, but there's a fine line. You see, we don't go to two extremes. Yeah, there's one extreme which says some people believe in that you just have faith, close your eyes, yes, I believe. This is not Islam. Yeah, it's not. We can logically understand things and we can ask this question. Then there's the other extreme where certain people go to is everything requires an answer, everything. Then brother, if everything that you need to know, everything that Allah knows you know, I would be like, what's the difference between you and the Creator? If you need to know about everything, yeah? Where does tawakkul come into it? If you need to know everything rationally, everything needs to be explained, then how does tawakkul come into it? Yeah? So for example, the matter of qadr, yeah? We know Allah exists, yeah? We know the Quran is from Allah. We know the Prophet ﷺ is his final messenger, yeah? Okay, now I know that. And there's a lot of few things that I would want to know as well. But there's matters from the unseen, so qadr is one, yeah? And this, I can maybe not kill anybody, like 2 birds with 1 stone. We don't even want to kill birds, so it's a phrase that's used. For example, if Allah knows everything, then why are we here? Yeah? If Allah knows, yeah, a lot of people ask this question, yeah? There is no answer for this. It's as simple as that. But maybe I can make you understand in a different way. Who's a billionaire in this country? Who's somebody that you guys know as a billionaire?
What, enemy?
Yeah, like a rich person that people look up to.
Trump.
No, not besides Trump. Huh? Mark? Bill Gates, yeah? Let's get to Bill Gates. You go to Bill Gates. Yeah, you go to Bill Gates, and Bill Gates says to you, I want you to go to, here they don't say city, they say downtown, yeah? You go to downtown and they say to you, go to downtown San Diego?
Sacramento.
Yeah, okay, go to San Diego and sell banana skins. Would you do it? Would you do it? If Bill Gates says to you, go to downtown San Diego and sell banana skins, would you do it? Why not? 1 second, he's a billionaire. The guy, he's rich. He's telling you, I want you to go and sell banana skins. Are you not going to think to yourself, this guy's rich, he's been in the business for so long, if he's saying it, maybe he knows something I don't. Would you not think like that for a second?
Yeah.
You would a bit, yeah? You would think, okay, you know very well, Bill Gates in front of you, you're not going to say no. You're going to say, okay, yeah. Yeah? So now, what are you doing there? You're not understanding what it's asking you to do, and it sounds silly, but you're having trust in him. Why? Because of who he is. And what about Allah? What about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Can you not, Allah, there's a lot of things that's explained. In this matter, can you not have tawakkul in him? Can you not say to him, okay, on the day of judgment I'm going to find out? Isn't that the best thing to do? You have 2 options. Either you're going to say, look, I don't believe, I'm going to leave the fold of Islam. Or number 2, I'm going to have my trust in my Lord. He knows what I don't know. He's the all-knowing. Yeah? Isn't that the better thing to do? Imagine you're going to die as a disbeliever, and there was an explanation to it, and somebody had the same concerns as you, but believed. 2 of you on the day of judgment in front of Allah. Allah explains to both of you. And one goes, oh, okay, it makes sense now. But it came at a cost. Do you get it? And this happened to me personally. I don't know if you saw my story when I bought mocha. You know mocha? You know coffee mocha? They said it here. Yeah, coffee mocha, yeah? I'll tell you my little story, yeah, just quickly. I went to this coffee machine in London, yeah, because I do Uber 3 days a week, yeah? So I get tired and I drink these strong coffees, yeah, to stay awake. And I went to the machine and I thought, I always get latte. I said, let me try mocha. So I pressed mocha. I pressed the machine, mocha. We have Costa. Do you have Costa here? Costa is at Starbucks, yeah? So they have these machines. So I pressed mocha. And it says there, okay, preparing your drink, hot milk, coffee, and then it goes hot chocolate. So I thought, wow, what's going on? I don't want hot chocolate. And I thought this machine is broken. And there's 3 machines next to it. So I got it and I throw it in the bin. Yeah, I said I got the second machine and I put mocha again. And then it's pouring hot milk, coffee, very tasty, hot chocolate. I said, what's going on? I don't want hot chocolate. Yeah? And this one, I put this one in the bin as well. I went to the 3rd machine. I pressed mocha again. Same thing. So the owner is getting angry now. He's saying, what are you doing? I said, what do you mean what I'm doing? I'm ordering coffee, he's giving me hot chocolate. So he's getting angry at me. I'm saying, what do you want me to do? Then he sends his 2 employees. They come to me, yeah? I go, brother, look. Yeah, I'm saying, look at me, yeah? I said, look, I'm pressing mocha. I press mocha. Same thing. I said, look. Hot chocolate. I said, you see? You see hot chocolate. Am I to blame? And they don't know. They say, no, you're right. I said, forget mocha, I ordered latte, I took my latte, I paid for that, and I left. 1 week later, I found out how mocha is made. There's hot chocolate. Yeah? I feel stupid. I went there, I paid for the free mochas, I apologized to the guy, yeah? I felt like going and kissing the machine, but I didn't. But the thing is what? My ignorance of not knowing something led to what? Blaming everyone. I blame the machine, I blame the employees, I blame the boss, I blame everybody. But who's the idiot? Me. It's because of my lack of knowledge. Do you get it? It's the same with tawakkul. Just because you do not know something doesn't mean there's no wisdom behind it. Any questions from sisters?
Let's get one from the sister. Yes.
Yes, sister. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so sister.
That's my sister.
That's it, yeah? Okay, first question, you want the second one?
Yeah, say the second.
Yeah, what's the second one? They have what? So 2 questions. Number 1, how do we explain to non-Muslims about sects in Islam, like Shia, Sunnism, etc. And number 2, can we say to an atheist that you've got nothing to lose, like ask him when?
With the sects thing, I mean, there is nothing in the Quran. You'll never find any verse in the Quran which says that you have to name yourself anything other than a Muslim. Yeah, this is molten ijma'. No, there's no doubt about that. No one can say, even the term Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah is not it's not a Quranic phrase, and it's not a phrase of the Prophet in that construction. He says Al Jama'ah, but Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah is not something that I know the Prophet ﷺ said. However, when we say Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah, what do we actually mean? We mean Ahlul Sunnati Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wal Jama'at al-Sahaba. Yeah, that's what we mean. We mean the way of the Prophet and the Jama'ah, meaning the Jama'ah of the companions. And so, when we're saying we believe in the Prophet and we believe in the companions, that's if someone doesn't know where we stand in relation to the Sahaba. That's very particular. But there's, even with that, there's no blame on you if you don't want to say, I'm Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah. But there's no blame on you, obviously, if you say that you're from Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah. And there's no blame on you if, like, remember Dhahabi, he used to mention Al-Qab. He used to say, for example, Kada wa Kada as-Salafi. He used to mention those phrases. Hanafi. There's no problem with using it. If you wanna, use those terms, but you can't say that is something which is, for example, fard. You cannot put that argument. It's very difficult to put this argument because there's no injunction at all from the Quran for something to have that status. It has to have some backing from the Quran and Sunnah. You can't say it if you don't say it, because al-farida is something, if you don't do it, yu'aqab ala tarki, which means if you don't do it, then you are punished for leaving it. So if someone says to you, well, you're punished if you don't call yourself Salafi, where's the evidence for this? Because you have to find something in the hadith, in the Quran, to say that Allah amarana bidhalik. There's no evidence of that whatsoever. And even people of great eminence like Ibn Taymiyyah, he never called himself Salafi. Ibn Taymiyyah, I haven't done istiqra of all of his books. I don't know anyone in the world, maybe someone in the world, but definitely very difficult to find someone who's read all of his books. But it's not common that he calls himself a Salafi. So therefore, for someone to force you to call yourself in that way, you don't need to do that. Yeah? And the Quran says, وَهُوَ سَمَّاكُمُ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. And also it says, وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ قَوْلًا مِمَّنْ دَعَا إِلَى اللَّهِ وَعَمَلَ صَالِحًا وَقَالَ إِنَّنِي مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. The Surah Al-Fussilat. That who is better in speech than one who calls to Allah and so on, and says, and does good deeds, and says, I am from one of the Muslims. So the phraseology in the Quran is that, but we call ourselves Muslim. However, we do have to differentiate ourselves from those individuals, for example, like that do khadha and that attack the Sahaba, because the Quran says, وَإِنْ آمَنُوا بِمِثْلِ مَا آمَنْتُمْ بِهِ فَقَدْ اهْتَدَوْا. If they believe in what you guys believe in, then they are guided. Who's you guys? The Sahaba. Because it's not مَا آمَنْتَ بِهِ, it's مَا آمَنْتُمْ بِهِ. So who could it be possibly talking to? It's the primary audience, which is the Sahaba. And the verses in Surah Al-Tawbah, and Surah Al-Fatiha, which does taraddi on, which means says that Allah is happy with them, and He is happy with the Sahaba, the ones who, the Muhajirin and the Ansar and so on. So that's how we would clarify things, inshallah. And the Prophet told us that the Hadith al-Iftiraq, he told us that the Muslim Ummah would be broken into different sects. And they asked him which is the right one. He says, مَا أَنَا عَلَيْهِ وَأَصْحَابِي. What I'm upon and my companions are upon. But he didn't say, call yourself this or call yourself that. He did say, مَا أَنَا عَلَيْهِ وَأَصْحَابِي. He did say this. But how that's understood shouldn't be the monopoly of any one group of scholars. So I would just say, yes, it's true. Almost everything out there, because it's used as an argument against Islam. How comes Islam is true when there's so many sects? Almost everything is controversial. That's a fact. Even mathematics is controversial. What's 0 divided by 0? No, there's 3 answers. You know that? There's a difference of opinion, actually. Some say it's 1. Have you heard this? Yeah, and some say it's infinity as well. And some say it's 0. And some say, so even the mathematics has ikhtilaf. Don't tell me now that, so the point is, even Gödel, who wrote something called the incompleteness theorem, by the way, it shook mathematics up in the early 1900s. That's something else. The point is, just because something is controversial doesn't mean it's false. So explain to them that these are the options, but this is the one that I'm going with, yeah? And this is the evidence for it, number 1. Number 2 is, you were asking about, what's the second question, sorry?
The second question was, what was it?
What was the second?
Is it okay? You say it's okay. You are dying anyway.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah. Sorry.
Oh yeah, the Pascal. Okay, right. So yeah, that's what the Quran says. The Quran says, قُلْ أَرَأَيْتُمْ إِنْ كَانَ مِنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ ثُمَّ كَفَرْتُمْ بِهِ. Imagine if this was from Allah and you made kufr of it. مَنْ أَضَلُّ مِنْ هُوَ فِي شِقَاقٍ بَعِيدٍ. Is it shiqaq? ضَلَالٍ بَعِيدٍ. Yeah? Who is the one who is further than the one who is lost in this way? But the shahid is that قُلْ أَرَأَيْتُمْ إِنْ كَانَ مِنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ ثُمَّ كَفَرْتُمْ بِهِ. Yeah, if it was from God and then you left it. So it's making them think, even from their perspective, what have you got to lose, kind of thing. Yeah, so you can use that, inshallah. Maybe one more? No?
Just can we not say that we are, you don't need to label yourself, but because somebody might come and say, okay, there's so many different groups and this person causing this, that's how do you distinguish? Because you say, okay, you're a Muslim, you say you're a Sunni, but then there's this, like, can we not say where people follow the Quran, Sunnah, and the way of Salaf? Because this can be asked, because think about this, it's a valid question, because they could say, everyone claims they're Sunni, everyone claims they're Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah.
Yeah, you can definitely say this.
Why
not? You can say if you want to say that. You should say that. You should say, I follow the way of the Sahaba. Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's no problem. But it's not. Well, the point is, if you don't call yourself a Salafi or a Hanafi or whatever, no one can say that you're going to be punished for this.
Oh no.
This is the point. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Inshallah, that's time.
Are we coming back or is it finished?
Finished?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of fear in Muslims nowadays.
Yes.
For this atheism, LGBT. But I believe in the beginning you said that everybody is a da'i of Allah.
Yeah.
I think if you become a da'i, you will never be a badawt. you are in one of the conditions. Either you're a da'i of Allah or either you're being madaw. You know what madaw?
Yeah, you're being called.
You're being called.
Oh, okay.
So either you're being invited or you're being invited.
Mm.
So if the ummah will become inviter of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala,
Yeah.
he will never be in madaw.
I like that. Jazakumullah khair. That's a very good point here. So he said that, you know, either in this society you're going to be a caller or you're going to be called. And it's true, Allah. You're either going to be a shepherd or you're going to be a sheep. You're either going to make the argument.
Either you're in dawah or you're receiving dawah.
You're either going to make the argument or it's going to be made against you. So make sure, guys, that, you know, you get your arguments straight and you become very, inshallah, active in what you do. Yeah? Jazakumullah khair. Thank you for that reminder. Yeah, that's it. Are we going to finish now? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a few minutes.
Okay.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We want to thank our speakers for coming all the way from the UK and jet lagged and God knows what's going on with them. Anyway, so they have something called Salam Initiative, which is basically its main focus is to deconstruct the false narratives against Islam, feminism, liberalism, all the isms and schisms, or different ideologies out there. Just as a matter of like honoring our guests, if it's possible, if you guys want to help out, there's a box on the table. If you guys want to help out, whatever you can help out with, yeah, or you can do it online. Or you can do it online, salam.uk.org, salam.org.uk, yeah. But we prefer you help here, because I know sometimes you delay, like, you don't do it later on.
Also, I've got the debate. I've got to mention, sorry. Yeah. Are you going to mention it?
Go.
Yeah, no.
Go ahead.
You can mention it.
No, I was going to mention other stuff, just you mentioned it.
Alright, so I've got a debate on Wednesday, yeah? With an atheist, his name is Eddie Tabash, and he's a famous atheist. Here's the, what do you call it, the flyer, you know. Anyway, the debate is going to be on Wednesday in UC Davis. Does God exist? Yeah? So we're going to, inshallah, if as many of you guys can come as possible, that will be a great opportunity for you to just be in the crowd, because there's going to be question and answers. There's going to be maybe interaction between you and non-Muslims. You can practice some of your arguments. You know, seriously, you can do that. But also, we need support as well, because frankly, you know, we've realized from debating that if there's a strong atheist presence and there's not enough Muslims, then that can make it seem like what he's saying makes sense. Even though he's going to say, you know, God is evil or something. Yeah, you know. So make sure you guys are there so we can, you know, create balance in the audience, inshallah. That's UC Davis, 6 o'clock on Wednesday, the 10th of April, inshallah.
Okay, just quickly last thing. So inshallah, tomorrow we have another event at Salam, and the day after we have a hike with them for the boys, inshallah. So the event at Salam, it'll be from 3 to 7 p.m. inshallah, Salam Islamic Center, near ARC. The first part is going to be about feminism, basically, how do you interact with feminists, or what's Islam's perspective on feminism. And the second part will be on the LGBT explosions, understand. Okay. I think Salah is in like 2 minutes. We'll get ready for it.